Yesterday, we zoomed in on North Korea's missile capabilities and how it made constant progress in relevant technologies. Tonight's news feature turns the spotlight to what can be done to solve this ever-escalating threat from the regime. Hyesung outlines for us some of the valid options.
대륙간 탄도로켓 화성 14형 시험 발사를 성공적으로 진행하였다.
On July 4th, a game-changer, North Korea successfully tested an ICBM, which experts say can reach Alaska, marking another milestone in the North's missile development program. Negotiations, sanctions, containment, all have been used over the last several years to address the North Korean threat. Yet today, we face a North Korea with an ICBM and nuclear weapons. All options are on the table, as world leaders often say, but what actual options are there to resolve the North Korean puzzle that's becoming more complicated by the day? First, international sanctions. The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting following the missile test, with the U.S. proposing tougher sanctions on North Korea.
UN sanctions have been imposed on the North since its first nuclear test in 2006, but real, effective sanctions have not even started yet. More pressure from China, which handles 90% of trade with North Korea, is needed to further isolate the North. Sanctions at the level of the sanctions that led Iran to give up its nuclear program are needed to actually make Pyongyang feel the pressure.
Over the last several years, North Korea has continued to export coal, iron ore, and zinc, getting hard cash from China. And according to the U.S. Treasury,
this bank has served as a gateway for North Korea to access the U.S. and international financial systems, facilitating millions of dollars of transactions for companies involved in North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs.
The Trump administration is preparing to impose more secondary sanctions on Chinese banks. There's conflict with China and Russia on imposing tougher sanctions on the North. South Korea needs to play the bridging role and persuade China to put more pressure on the North and appeal to China's economic interests so that these outweigh China's strategic security calculations on the Korean peninsula.
Another option being talked about is a preemptive strike on North Korea.
One of our capabilities lies with our considerable military forces. We will use them if we must.
But any military options, even the most limited strike, could be catastrophic, as North Korea could retaliate against the South. James Mattis, the U.S. Defense Secretary, also warned that a preemptive strike on the North would be probably the worst kind of fighting in most people's lifetimes. Yet experts say stronger deterrence from both South Korea and the U.S. is critical.
We say use nuclear weapons against nuclear weapons, but it's pretty much impossible for South Korea to develop nuclear weapons now. South Korea needs to strengthen its defense and deterrence capabilities. It's not just about having THAAD or kill chain or something like Israel's Iron Dome. We need to come up with specific deterrence strategies that fit various scenarios to counter North Korea's threats.
As a former overture this week, the Moon administration has called for diplomacy and a restoration of inter-Korean military talks and reunions of families separated by the Korean War.
Talks and cooperation between the two Koreas to ease tension and bring about peace on the Korean peninsula will be instrumental for pushing forth a mutual, virtuous cycle for inter-Korea relations and dealing with North Korea's nuclear problem.
Since coming into office in May, President Moon Jae-in has sent gestures to re-engage with North Korea, as he outlined in his Berlin Declaration.
During family reunions, government officials from the South and North also meet officially, opening up channels of dialogue. President Moon is trying to re-engage with North Korea under humanitarian causes, ultimately using a mix of pressure and dialogue to change North Korea's behavior and bring about peace on the Korean peninsula.
Continue pursuing nuclear weapons, conducting ballistic missile tests, and further isolating itself, or re-engage with South Korea and come to the negotiation table. South Korea, the U.S., and the world have laid out the strategic cards, and now it's in the hands of North Korea to make the decision. Hyesung, Arirang News.